there seems to be more consensus about where the China-U.S. trade negotiations could go even after the deal is reached. There seems to be an understanding that this will not be the end of the road. We heard from the former White House chief strategist, Steve Bannon, writing in an opinion piece saying that even if an agreement is reached, that it will be a temporary truce in a years-long economic and strategic war with China. If that's the case, where do the two sides go from here?
Well, a lot will depend, obviously, on the decision that President Trump makes on Friday. If he goes ahead with tariff escalation, I think it's going to take some time in an optimistic scenario for the two sides to resume talks. If we do manage to avoid this escalation, then I think there's still quite a good chance that we have a deal by end June. But I think more broadly, that point is absolutely right. This deal, if we get a deal, the risks will then shift into implementation. And I think the implementation is going to be rocky almost from the beginning. And the kind of disputes that we see this week are going to be the case going forward. So this deal is going to have uncertainty surrounding it for certainly the remainder of the Trump administration.
And we are now seeing the president facing his own challenges domestically. Just a few minutes ago, the New York Times releasing 10 years of the president's tax returns, which included 8 years of him not paying income taxes, of returns that said that he had $1 billion of business losses. How will these domestic issues affect the president's hand in dealing with China going forward?
I think that the issues that are peripheral to the trade dispute are not going to have a very big impact on this. To some extent, President Trump seems so far to have dodged the most important bullet, which was the risk of impeachment. Obviously, there's still a lot going on there. But I think for the time being, he feels confident. The economy is strong. And there hasn't been much political blowback yet for him to the trade war. And this is what's emboldening him. So if you're looking for issues that might lead President Trump to moderate his stance, it's going to be the market reaction, if there is escalation, and the political reaction, including important parts of his base, like U.S. farmers.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Michael, because in terms of market reaction, some of the most profound market reaction we've seen has been in grain prices and soybean prices. So is this potentially a pressure point that the Chinese could lean on with President Trump? Because that's a pretty important voter base if they begin suffering some pain.
It is an important pressure point. U.S. farmers, I think many of them are hurting, and they had been looking forward to not only a trade deal that removed tariffs that China had put in place, but the prospect of China stepping up and purchasing U.S. agricultural goods as part of this deal. And the fact that we might be seeing that disappear is clearly one thing that's been impacting agricultural markets. But I would say many farmers seem to be standing by President Trump. They support his agenda, and I think their faith is somewhat conditioned on the fact that they think that Trump will get a better deal down the road. So we don't see as much pushback now in the agricultural community as you would think just from looking at what's been happening with crops and prices.